Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling alongside Andy Hamilton for another state wrestling championship preview. Last time I said this might be the biggest high school weekend of the year, meaning last week. I think I might be wrong. I think we're equal this time. 14 states last week, 14 states this week, and it really doesn't get bigger than going all the way out to the West Coast in California. Unbelievable. This is a 40-man brackets. There are no classifications, and if you survive this gauntlet, you are the man.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, what do we say, 22,600-ish high school boys who went out for wrestling a year ago in California, all in one classification. Boils down to, what do we average it out? For 14 weight classes, it's about 1,600 wrestlers per weight class. As you mentioned, 40 of them make it to the state tournament, so you got to be in the upper 3% just to get to Bakersfield for the state championships. And then, man, it takes a stud to win it once you get there.
And then take a look at this. We start out at 106 pounds. We could dive into all of this because California has 27 nationally ranked wrestlers. And at 106 alone, there are 4 nationally ranked wrestlers, and they all got to face each other.
Not just 4 nationally ranked wrestlers, 4 of the top 9 in the national rankings, Kyle. And they're all going to be vying for the same prize Saturday night.
And then you go down the lineup, you have 113 has 3, you have 152 has 3, and then there's a smattering of others that have 2 and 1. You could break it down, but let's start at 106. You have number 2, number 5, number 8, and number 9. Who's going to come out of this one?
It's a good question. Good question. And, we always see some surprises out there as well. But certainly, 4 nationally ranked hammers, as I mentioned, 4 of the top 9 in the national rankings. Number 2, Andre Gonzalez. Number 5, Raymond Lopez. Number 8, Michael Torres. And then number 9, Bo Mantanona. Some pretty highly credentialed dudes in this weight class.
And then 113, number 1 in the country, Richard Figueroa. From Selma, number 3, Joey Cruz, and then number 9, one of our favorites, Jack Geoffrey of Buchanan. It looks like it's going to be Figueroa's, but you never know what could happen.
Figueroa is coming off a 5-0 win last weekend against Joey Cruz. I believe they've met 3 times this season, and Figueroa's won each of the previous meetings. Going for his 3rd title in 3 years, super highly credentialed guy, a guy who was a 2018 cadet world silver medalist, lightning quick on his feet, exceptionally talented, and then he can put the hammer down on top when he needs to as well.
And then at 152, we have 3 ranked guys. Number 1, Chase Aldati. Number 6, Sonny Santiago. And then number 11, Tyler Badgett. And again, it's all about matchups, where you're going to come out. But you win a weight class like that, you know you're the man.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the top 2 ranked guys in this weight class. Chase Aldate, number 1 in the country. You mentioned Sonny Santiago, number 6. He was number 1 when the season started, and now he's number 6 nationally. Headed to North Carolina. Saldate's going to Michigan State. And then you got Tyler Badgett, who popped into the national rankings a year ago. He's back in there at number 11 this go-round. Santiago, one of 6 returning state champions in the entire tournament. It's certainly going to be one of the weight classes that is at the top of the list of ones to watch for us in California.
And then 145, there's something special that could happen there. Vasquez trying to be the 4th 4-timer in California history. Jesse Vasquez, number 2 in the country. And then there's also number 9, Aaron Gandara of Poway. We'll see if he can knock him off. We've seen it happen at the Iowa State Championships. Could he do it here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one to follow, no doubt, this weekend at 145 pounds. You mentioned the rich history there. Only 3 in the history of the tournament have won 4, and certainly it goes back to what we talked about at the top with just one classification and the largest participation numbers in the country all jammed into one class, and how difficult it is just to win 1, let alone 4. But Jesse Vasquez has put himself in position. What we've seen the last couple of years, for a long time, it was just Darryl Vasquez on his own as the only 4-timer in California history. And then Justin Mejia did it recently. And then Seth Nevels follows that up and becomes a 4-timer. Now we're seeing it with more regularity. Jesse Vasquez with an opportunity to do it as well. But we've seen some wild stuff happen at state tournaments a week ago, not just in Iowa, where you mentioned Adam Allard was going for his fourth in Iowa and got turned in the closing seconds to lose for the first time in 200 matches. Wild stuff happens in state tournaments. So certainly don't chalk this one up yet, but Jesse Vasquez is the favorite there. And in the weight class, one of his toughest competitors in the weight class, Luca Wick, was ranked number 8 in the country. Unfortunately, he sustained an injury last weekend in the qualifying tournament against Jesse Vasquez, and he's not going to be able to wrestle this weekend, which is unfortunate. We wish Luca Wick the best in his recovery and wish he was able to put his foot on the line and let it go this weekend in Bakersfield.
There's all kinds of stuff we could dive into with California. We could spend the rest of the show talking about California. Anything else you want to highlight before we get to Oklahoma?
Well, just that 6 returning state champions in the field. We mentioned Figueroa, who's going for his third. Tristan Lujan, his teammate at Selma, is trying to win as well. He's ranked number 11, comes in behind another guy in his state, Carlos Negrete from Buchanan. Maximo Renneria, another Buchanan guy, going for his third in 3 years. You're going to hear a lot about Clovis Buchanan. They come in with a nationally ranked guy in the first 5 weight classes, certainly a team loaded with hammers there. And so that's going to be the team to keep your eye on, just to see what they can do from the team front, what kind of number that they can put up by the time the tournament's over Saturday night.
We'll move to Oklahoma, a state with a rich wrestling tradition, high school and college. A few things on the team front to keep your eye on. Class 3A, Perry is trying to win its 44th state title. Unbelievable there. Class 4A, Tuttle is trying to win its 12th straight title. And then Class 6A, Broken Arrow became the first team to qualify all 14 weights. Great tradition there. You think of Perry, you think of Dan Hodge and some of the great names out of there, but they really have some quality wrestlers. And we'll point out 182, Tate Piccolo from Mustang, number 7, and Luke Serber from Tuttle, number 7 and number 8, but they're in different classifications. They will not meet, but those are guys you're going to want to really keep your eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of guys in Oklahoma that are top-notch individual wrestlers that we're going to see here over the course of Friday and Saturday when that tournament gets rolling. And unfortunately, we're not going to see Dustin Plott. That's a bummer. That guy who started the season ranked number 1 in the country and just has not been able to get on the mat. Injuries that he sustained and recovery from those prior to the season just hasn't been able to get out there for Tuttle. But nonetheless, it's a powerhouse team that put up, I think, close to 230 points a year ago. Just year after year, they put up jaw-dropping numbers in Class 4A in Oklahoma, and it's going to be something to watch to see what kind of numbers Tuttle can put up this go-round.
And you'd think there's something to this. You look at some of the nationally ranked guys from Oklahoma. You have number 13, Troy Spratley, and then number 11, Jordan Williams. They're both from Collinsville. You have 120 and 126 there. Workout partners, 138, you have John Wiley from Mustang. Tate Piccolo's 182 from Mustang. So you see the pattern here, and you see why some of these guys are really good.
Yeah, and we mentioned Plott. Well, he's got Luke Serber in his room. And then guy that really surfaced on the national radar this year, Harley Andrews, ranked number 9 at 195. Those three, you imagine, probably have had quite a few good scraps in the practice room. And you talk about Williams and Spratley. Spratley coming back to Oklahoma this year in Collinsville, and then Williams, a guy who's had just incredible credentials all the way up and was on our radar before he ever got to high school, and then had a tremendous freshman season, followed it up with another strong sophomore year, looking to win another title.
220, we got to mention number 3, Connor Doucette, and then number 20, Cabe Dickerson from Altus. So some big guys there. They aren't quite heavyweights, 220s, but those are a couple more guys you want to keep your eye on. Moving up, we're going to go straight up Interstate 35 to Minnesota. Man, they love their wrestling there, and I think you have experienced this with the track wrestling platform. Whenever there's a highlight from Minnesota, people seem to be checked in.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of passion for wrestling in the state, and a lot of high-level talent coming out of Minnesota. We're seeing the state of Minnesota year after year here recently is putting people on age group world teams. I think in 2017, the United States goes up to Finland, wins the men's freestyle junior world title, and that team was led by Mark Hall, junior world champion, Gable Steveson, junior world champion, Mitch McKee, junior world silver medalist. And then also at the cadet level that year in Greece, Athens, Greece, Greg Kirkfleet wins a cadet world title. Emily Shilson wins cadet world silver. It's been a pattern that's been ongoing here for several years. Such a strong freestyle Greco program in the out of season that's leading to high-level success in folk style. And then also we just see such a wave of young talent coming through that state all the time because 7th and 8th graders are allowed to compete at the high school varsity level. We saw Mark Hall win 6 Minnesota state titles. It's like almost if you're a 4-timer in Minnesota, that puts you on a pretty high pedestal, but the guys that are at the top are the ones who are winning 5 and 6.
182, Patrick Kennedy, number 1 in the country. He is going to the University of Iowa, and if you've watched him wrestle, you know why he's going to be a Hawkeye.
Yeah, he's physical, he's aggressive, he's a guy that's going to fit the mold for the Hawkeyes. He's at 182. I don't think we're going to see him at 182 in college. I think he's going to be more of a 65, 74-pounder, a guy who can step in the lineup. Probably will redshirt would be my guess with the lineup that Iowa has coming back with Alex Marinelli at 165, Michael Kemmer at 174. But when those guys graduate in a year, that's a guy that probably going to fill one of those spots and do it at a pretty high level. He's going for his 4th state title. And in addition to him, another 4-time potential guy who's going for 4 as a junior, Reed Ballantyne of Stillwater at 132 pounds. Those are your guys that are trying to reach that next level behind the Mark Halls and the 5-timers in Minnesota.
And then there's some young guys trying to make their mark here, as is the case often in Minnesota. You have 106. Jory Volk is ranked number 11, but he's going to have some competition from some junior hires.
Yeah, Landon Robideau, a 7th grader, has put up just an incredible season. It started even before his season. We saw some of the preseason tournaments. He was performing exceptionally well. And then also Coy Biskins at 106 as well, a guy who handed Jory Volk his first loss of the season this past weekend. 10-3 decision at the sectional tournament. So Jory Volk comes in, has been in the top 5 nationally. He's going to have his hands full with some other guys in that weight class.
And then we have an 8th grader going for his 2nd title at 126 pounds in 3A. So Pearson Manville of Shakopee trying to go for that. So Minnesota is really different in a way because you do have that opportunity. I think that's the one thing as we go through these states. Each state has their own identity, and we're seeing that with Minnesota.
Yeah, and another thing that's different about Minnesota is they wrestle the duels in conjunction with the traditional individual tournament. So it's another thing to keep an eye on this week with what's going on up north.
We'll go to New York. We're going to talk about 2 names, and they're both number 2 in the country. If you follow college wrestling, you know who this guy is. Yanni Diakomahalis has a brother, Greg Diakomahalis, at 120 pounds, trying to become the state's 4th 5-time champion. And when you hear that name, you got to get excited because we know his brother can bring it, and so can Greg.
Yeah, and I think Yanni would have been on that list of 5-timers as well, if not for injury his senior season that held him out. But we're talking about some all-time legends in New York. Troy Nickerson, Ja'Cory Teemer, Adam Buziello, Greg Diakomahalis. Is he going to join that list Saturday night? I think there's pretty strong possibility. He missed most of the first half of the season while recovering from a knee injury that he sustained in a spring tournament, and looks back and ready to rock for this tournament and make a run at number 5. But certainly a guy who's skilled in a lot of positions, a really good scrambler, much like his older brother, and super hard to score on.
The next wrestler we're going to mention might be the most viewed wrestler in the history of our sport. It's a possibility. Steve O'Poulin at 113, going after his 3rd title in 3 years, and maybe just explain who Steve O'Poulin is for those who might not be checked into it.
Yeah, if you go back 8-9 years ago, you probably remember the internet sensation, the mohawked internet sensation. He was 8 years old, throwing people all over the place. His father, Steve, put together a highlight video and had no intention of it ever getting as big as it did. And it just spread like wildfire. And all of a sudden, Steve-O is a national sensation. And even what we found out over the course of the last year is he's turned into a global sensation when he goes down to, he went down to the Pan Am Cadet Championships. And according to Frank Papalizio, his coach, was basically mobbed down there by other athletes. You're over at the Cadet World Championships in Bulgaria. What was it like over there with Steve?
It was, yeah. People knew who he was, and people are checked into it. And I think at this point he's gotten used to it and just understands that's part of it. And people will pull up the video and say, is this you? But certainly is, like you say, he is a global sensation, and it all stems from that video. And he is a fun guy to watch. He has developed himself, gotten better, and he knows how to entertain, loves to put on a show. So he definitely is someone you're going to want to check into.
No doubt. And he's done such a great job with the platform that he's been put on. I don't think he probably chose this celebrity. I think probably, one of the things we've talked about in the past, even in the summer, Kyle, as we were previewing the Cadet World Championships, was just the kind of pressure that comes with being in the spotlight like he was from age 8 on, and everybody giving you his best shot. Everybody giving you their best shot, and he's been able to not buckle under that pressure. We wondered, what's this guy going to become when he's 16, 17, 18 years old? Well, he's become pretty hard to deal with on the wrestling mat. Number 2 in the country, going for his 3rd state title, and he's a dynamo out there, a guy that you're not going to want to miss when he's on the mat.
Let's go to Wisconsin, where track wrestling was founded and formed. We have a couple guys we definitely need to talk about there. National number 1, Keegan O'Toole of Heartland Arrowhead, trying to become the 18th 4-time state champion in Wisconsin history. And when you have that kind of history, you're on the cusp of it. There are going to be fans checked into that. That's
yeah, no
special.
doubt. He's a guy you're going to want to watch anyway, just because of how exceptional he is and how good he is in so many different positions. You mentioned national number 1. He earned that ranking with what he's done in the out of season, as well as what he's done in the high school season. But he wrestled in the junior world team trials last summer and made it to the finals. He wrestled a lot of college-age guys and more than held his own, won some matches in there. There were some pretty dynamic young wrestlers in that weight class, and he was knocking on the door to make a junior world team up against college guys. So well beyond his years on the mat, and certainly a guy you're not going to want to miss up in Madison this week.
And then national number 12 at 120, Nicolar Rivera of Stoughton will come in 102-0 for his career. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He's going to be making a run at title number 2, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about this guy. He really popped onto the radar a couple years ago in Fargo with what he did up there, and certainly a guy that has backed that up with his high school career, more than backed that up, and a guy that's dynamic on his feet and fun to watch.
A lot of great wrestlers have come out of South Dakota. Who would be on the Mount Rushmore there? Probably Randy Lewis, Lincoln McElravy, the Shear brothers. Right now, this might be the last time we get to watch this heavyweight compete. Number 2 heavyweight in the country, Nash Hutmaker, comes in with 69 consecutive falls, trying to become a 4-time state champion. This guy is going to play football at Nebraska, but let's enjoy him while we have him right now.
No doubt. And we've seen him for a long time. He won a heavyweight title up in South Dakota as a freshman. He's going for title number 4. He's had success on the national level, and as you mentioned, he's had a lot of football coaches after him for a long time. He's going to be a Husker. Hopefully we get to see him down the road a little bit more, but boy, it sure doesn't look like it. Maybe, you never know. Maybe one day he misses it and wants to step into Mark Manning's room and see what he can do in there. But let's hope that somewhere down the road we get to see more of Nash.
Look at this. Oregon Crescent Valley comes in with 5 number 1 seeds in Class 5A, including 3 nationally ranked wrestlers. But let's start with a guy, his dad. When you were covering the beat at the University of Iowa, Chad Lamer was on the cusp of making world teams. He was at that high level. Now he has offspring trying to do some great things at the state level.
Yeah, and they have for a while here. His boys, we've been hearing about them for a long time. Legend Lamer has gone on to Cal Poly. And then Chance made a Cadet World team as well. We've talked about Cadet World teamers throughout this show, but Chance was on one of those teams as well. They got to go overseas, and he's a guy that can score from a lot of different positions, and he's a fun one to watch. And certainly they've got a couple other guys on that team you're not going to want to miss either. Gabe Wisenhunt at 113 pounds comes in number 11 in the country, and then also Santos Cantu at 195 pounds comes in at number 18.
Kansas has a stud. We've seen him a lot this summer, and he's going to bring it. Let's talk about him. 220-pounder, number 2 in the country. He has a great first name, doesn't he?
Kyle Haas.
Love it.
It's a good name.
It is.
There's a lot of good Kyles in the wrestling world.
It is good.
Including the guy across the table here.
Won a title last year as a sophomore at 182, and then we'll go back out to Illinois. We mentioned this last time. They had a traditional state tournament, traditional brackets, but they do not score it. So this is the real team concept for Illinois. It's what makes Illinois unique. And Montini coming off a record-breaking performance at the individual state championships with 5 champions, a Class 3A record. Montini, they're rolling right now. This is a good team.
Yeah, and then you look at what they've had to replace in the last several years, and a lot of high-level guys that have gone on to the college level and had great success. Will Lewan, a Cadet World champion. Real Woods out at Stanford having a lot of success. You know, Peter Christensen up to Wisconsin. I could keep going on and on about the guys that they've had to replace in the lineup. But Israel Martinez and his staff have done such a great job of developing talent that they're just plugging in more hammers right in place of those. And, you know, Dylan Ragusin coming off a state championship. He's going to be heading off to Michigan next year. 126-pounder. We saw Joey Furnow comes into the Illinois state meet, knocks off number 1 and number 2 on Friday to make the finals, ends up winning a title at 106 pounds. So what we're seeing is just more of the same. More guys stepping into those roles, becoming hammers, and just picking up where, you know, their graduated stars left off.
And then we'll end with Michigan. They are having their state duels this week as well. Detroit Central Catholic, Davison, Brighton tangling for the Division I title. We've covered a lot there. Anything else you want to add as we wrap up this preview show for another 14 states?
Yeah, I think one of the things, certainly we'll have some girls action across the country. Kansas having its first sanctioned state tournament. California has been sanctioned, I think, since 2011. There's some high-level girls that are competing out in California. Cristel Rodriguez, a cadet world silver medalist, one of 2 state champions in her bracket. It's really high-level stuff out in California on the girls' front. And then also Oregon going to have their second girls' sanctioned state tournament. So certainly going to want to keep an eye on the young ladies competing across the country, and just gets better and better all the time. The girls' wrestling, the quality, the numbers, the amount of sanctioned states. It's really exciting to see what's going on the girls' front as well.
And hopefully next year when we do this, we're going to have a lot more girls' states to talk about. We need to fill in that map. There's only one state that does not have sanctioned high school wrestling. That's Mississippi. They have one program there. Let's fill up the map. Let's make sure we get them all colored in here. But we're excited about this. Another preview show. Make sure you check in for all the action on Track Wrestling.